I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Thank you so much for being consistent. Thank you for so many who are staying tuned in. It's been 11 years. You guys have tuned in from Blog Talk Radio to podcasts, to Apple Podcasts, to Google Podcasts, to iHeart, to everywhere, YouTube, Facebook, and the list just goes on and on. She is across the globe indeed. And you guys are always there. You're always returning back. Those of you who do, you know who you are, and I appreciate you. Now, let's get into this topic. Where were you? Hey, I had to go and discover something that I've always discovered, but I've always took a lot less time to make sure that I did it often. And did it more often. And now it's just like after the pandemic and so much that I've seen over the past decade or so, I know that it's imperative to just do it. When the calling says it's time to do it, you just do it. You take that time off, you pack up the microphone, you shut down the selfie light, and you just block it all out so that you can take care of you, right? Thin line between self-care and selfish. That's going to be the topic today, but that's where I've been. And this has happened before for all of my Blog Talk Radio listeners. They remember me being on air 7 days a week, where I would go in and I'm live every night, and my co-hosts would come in and callers would call in, and you'd have like 20 callers a night. And that comes with personality after personality, culture after culture, one side of the globe to the other side of the globe. And you're dealing with all of that 7 days a week, as well as I was at the time when I was raising my children, who are now adults. But when I was raising my children, and you're just I was busy, and I was also busy in the church. So I was just like back to back busy. And then even when I left the church, decided to take a more spiritual route to the way that I believe, I was still really busy with my children and still getting these podcasts in after the children go to sleep 7 nights a week. And it was a lot, and I remember when I took that break, when it came to me and the intuition said, stop it. Have you ever had your intuition just come at you and just be like, stop? Cut it out, stop. So once I had that moment happen, I shut it down, and I shut it down for years, for months. That's just the kind of person that I am, to get to that mental place where I say, yes, you feel balanced, you feel good, about where you are. Now is the time to go back on the microphone. And then I'll jump back in the microphone and do what I do. Right now, I was working really hard with separating my seasons for the live video. So the live video has seen season 1 and season 2, about to prep up and go all the way into season 3. Lessons that I learned in my quiet self-care downtime is that separate all the different platforms is very important. Even though so many people came at me to try to say, oh, you're doing too much. And I'm just like, no, you're doing too less. There's just a lot that you're not doing. So you want to talk down what I do, but everything has to be categorized. And everything I do and the visions that I have isn't for every platform, because there's one group that can handle it and another group that can't. So you're speaking to all these different platforms. Here's a funny joke, right? To put some humor in, Jaleel White had on his Facebook earlier today that Chick-fil-A needs to really consider having an all atheist crew and being open on Sundays, and so it's kind of that, like, okay, Chick-fil-A, I get how you believe in doing this and that, but there's a whole other group of people that cut for that chicken sandwich, That's the same thing, whether it's a wild, funny reference or not. When it comes to this lifestyle, like, I could talk about relationships, but there's some more serious, stick up the butters. Hashtag stick up the butters. So that those people, they want just like those serious topics all the time. So there's a place for them. And then there's relationships, and there's a place for that. And then there's current events, and there's a place for that. And so I went ahead and created different platforms so that different people, not that my listeners that like that super serious stuff, not that I'm thinking in my head that you're a stick up the butt, I ain't thinking it, but I don't want you to think I'm thinking it, but I ain't thinking it. No, I'm joking. But I had to go over there and put you some serious stuff so that you can get your serious from D. Because, instead of just allowing me to be who I am, you guys want to categorize me into things that make you comfortable. I'm here for that. And that stick up your butt. No, I'm joking. So I have to go and categorize and separate the things that I do. So relationships over here, current events is at the More Tea with D, talking the hot topics and the more tea with D. And, sometimes it's relationships and the hot topics and things that go on like the entanglements or, the really great show that we did where we talked about the guy that was trying to date all those different ladies that had came on that platform. That's over there up on the YouTube. So under hashtag iamdeeshields. So, just different times I'm going with different topics. So there needs to be a home for it all. Right. So that's why you see the various pages. If you're keeping up as a fan and a follower, which there are several people, contrary to popular personal belief that you have, there are several people that love to keep up with it all. And so those that keep up with it all, then they're just like, oh, I know when she's over here, she's going to be talking about this. When she's over on this platform, she's talking about that. So here's what you could do. When in doubt, ask. So here's what you could do. Write them all down. So get a pen and paper so I could tell you how to keep up with me on social media. And then we could get into this hot topic. There's a thin line between self-care and selfish. So here's how we're going to follow. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram using the hashtag iamdeeshields. If you can't find me, it's probably because you are forgetting I before E, except after A, or when sounding like nay as in yeah. Okay. Got it? So it's sounding like A as in yay or nay. All right, so it's Shields. So you're going to have the I before E. So if you can't find me, it's probably because you're doing EI. And I am sorry that little sing-song lesson was not put into your life. But if you're constantly putting an EI when it should be an IE, I like to have fun with my listeners. I'm joking. But I'm not. But I am. But I'm not. I before E, except after. Okay. Anyway, so here it is. So I am Dee Shields. Hashtag, where was I? Just went off on my little thing. So hashtag I am Dee Shields. I am DEESHIELDS. Okay, so pretty much that's going to take you to everything that's great, that's D. But from some of you, you need a little bit more directions. You're the person that that drives the Uber and needs the map and the passenger to tell you how to get there. I get it. And because those people exist, I will break it down even more. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is going to be I am Dee Shields. You see how easy that was? Right. And then if you want to talk about the books, that's the Social Media Book Club. The book president, Sonia, runs the Social Media Book Club. If you want to have a conversation about all things that's reading, books, book readers, book talk, the whole nine, everything that's related to talking about having a conversation about authors and books and great articles and journalism and journalists and anything in the nature of reading and books, then you're going to go to the Facebook group Social Media Book Club. What will you guys be talking in there? About books. Okay, so we're going to now move forward. Then you have the That's It, Let's Talk group. That's it, let's talk. That's it, let's talk. That's it, let's talk. You can find that on Facebook also. That's just various popular topics. Every once in a while, the ladies from St. Louis who used to host the Diva Hive, the ladies from St. Louis will also, Miss Sassy Leslie will talk about some relationship topics and things like that from time to time. You can scroll all the way down to find some of their older topics if they don't have anything up new, but they're still welcome to do so. And you'll find me coming in there talking about, a hot topic. But for the most part, I just share hot topics that I come across. Okay. So that's what happens over there on That's It, Let's Talk. And I have, if you want to get the invite, to share a hot topic and give your view and, get your limelight camera light on, you can do so. All you have to do is just request and I will let you do a live. And if you mess up, you'll never get invited again. If you do well, you can continue to do so. Okay, so that's the fun going on over there on That's It, Let's Talk. So are we all squared away? No, we forgot to talk about YouTube. So over there on YouTube, I am Dee Shields. All right, that's the intro, you guys. So now let's get into this simple yet hot topic. There's a thin line between self-care and selfish, and that's what we're talking about today. So get your pen and paper out. Everybody have their pen and paper out. Let's go over there and invite some people. Alrighty, so we got those Facebook invites going. Alright, cool. Alright, looks like we're in a good place. Alright. Join the chat. Alright, you guys, so you could join the chat. Alright, so everyone has their pen and paper and we're all ready to go. There's a thin line between self-care and selfish, right? There's a whole lot of talk about self-care. There's a lot of people getting everything that they can understand and learn about self-care through these popular reels, shorts, and TikToks that are going around. And you're learning a lot through 60 seconds of inspirational talk, and that's good. But there's a lot more that comes to self-care. And one important key about self-care is understanding that you may have to reach out for additional help to be sure that you are getting the care that is for you. So yes, an inspirational, I'm here for it. I look at those shorts and reels and TikToks all the time. Shorts on YouTube, reels on Instagram, and TikTok videos going over there on TikTok. So I'm looking at those inspirational videos about self-care. But just don't be so ready to have a conversation about it and talk about a popular topic and not really understand what it means to shut everything out, right? I talk a lot in recent years about how over the past 9 years, maybe a little more, I've only done a social gathering twice a year. It was important for me to isolate myself in such a way that I could take care of my mental. And that is because I spent my 20s and 30s really busy with people around me all the time. So I understood what it meant to gather my mental, so to speak. And in doing so, I'm making sure that I can hear the messages that are for me. It's really hard for a person to really hear clearly if you're keeping a constant crowd around you. The crowd is like the crowd to a person that needs to find balance and really find their true self and really tap into what's for them and get that really decent, good self-care. A crowd to a person with that need is often like an illicit drug to a person that's addicted to drugs. You're using the crowd to keep you from thinking subconsciously. You're using the crowd of people around you, whether there's two or more, always around you, so that you really do not have to focus on what's going on. The same thing often that drug users do, those that are addicted to drugs, illicit drugs, that they will do. It shuts down those thoughts of the things that they know that they're trying to mask, the pain, trauma, hurt, whatever it is that they're hiding behind. That drug kind of removes it for those moments that it exists. That's what happens when you allow people around you all the time. You can't take 2 days off a week and say, nope, girl, I'm getting my balance. I'm doing all that I can for me, and still have a lot of things going on. When you have just recently had a lot of traumatic issues going on, when you have experienced in the last decade or two traumatic incidents, hurtful incidents, painful incidents, drama-filled incidents, you need to silence your environment more than a couple of days a week. You need to silence your environment to, yes, maybe 2. I know 2 is hard because I'm one that can really isolate myself, so that's kind of hard for people. 2 times a year, but maybe even 4. And when I say no socializing, I'm talking about limiting. If you have a need for it, then you could go over there and socialize through social media. And even know when to turn that off. Like, literally almost like a monk in a sense, with no disrespect to that lifestyle, getting quiet. Because the more you have the same environment type of people around you, and that constant loud is around you, you're not experiencing self-care. You're talking about it, but you're not experiencing it. Self-care has so many categories. Can't lump it all into one box because it isn't. It has so many categories. Of course, the visual, self-care, cleaning your body, hygiene, combing your hair, clean clothes, feeding yourself, eating right, exercising, doing well. But then there's that mental. And mental, it's going to be broken down into so many different things because your therapist can talk to you about doing it one way, but she doesn't really know all the things that really come with your entire lifestyle because you're still holding back in your sessions. So she doesn't know all of it. So there's even some more that needs to be eliminated. And then you have, even the person you're in a relationship with, they may not know all the things that you're trying to deal with mentally. So you need to eliminate and cut back on some time there. There's a lot, so self-care, it's just one of those things, it's an unpacking thing, and you can't unpack with noise, right? In doing your self-care, you have to be careful because you can almost get into this selfish, side of things, right? So you have to make sure that you're not being selfish in your self-care. Because there's this part of self-care that's starting to go really viral. Like, I just go do everything that's for me. I go shopping because that's for me. I don't care what anybody else in the household needs. I go on trips because that's for me. I don't care who I'm neglecting. I don't care what responsibilities that I'm neglecting. See how that selfish starts to comes in? I don't care. Because I'm going to go do this for me. And I just shut you out because I don't need you. It's for me. Be mindful not to get too selfish. Because how dare you, especially if you are a parent, that you begin to neglect your children in the ideology of self-care. Right? Like, I'm just on my self-care journey. Your daughter, your son, they're trying to spend time with you. They have been waiting for months, and you keep having all these different self-care events that you're taking off to go do. And they really need you. And they're starting to spiral downhill with behavior, and you can't get to them because you're in your self-care when you get off work and before you go to work and on the weekend, and you just have no time for your children because of your self-care. That's selfish. You brought them into this world. It's not the responsibility of anyone else. Not the teachers, not the mentors, not the fathers. You brought them into this world. You hold the highest priority when it comes to this child. Should a man get into Those are whole different conversations. I'm talking to a mother about her child. Right? So you can't just get so selfishly caught up in your self-care and everything's about me that you begin to neglect those children, because those children need you at critical times in their upbringing, that if you miss the moment, it could take them and they could spiral into areas that you won't be able to get it back. There are other people that will begin to speak in and to fill that void that you are not able to connect with because you're always gone on these self-care journeys. So when it comes to self-care, understand that thin line so that you don't neglect those around you who need you. You know, I'm a mother who I have adult children now, and I have to to step back and look at the upbringing without taking over, because they have their own journeys that they're going to have with their own families. So I have to watch how they run their households, and, I can put in and say, but try not to be too overbearing, but also not hold back when I know that there's something crucial. And there's this moment that I see that if you don't hurry up and get it together, society will just step in and fill that void. And then you getting in after society fills that void will be harder to do. It will be a lot more challenging to do. So, as a mother versus a grandmother, I have to sit in this seat of wisdom, and to share these things, but you can't be overbearing and take over, because we have too many grandmothers doing that. Like, let them children raise those children, unless they're really, in many situations, they're not capable of it, and you have to step in. And God bless their soul, because I know what a burden that could be from personal stories that I know, right? So, but when they're capable, jobs, careers, financially, then, let them do what they do, right? All right, so the stepping away from parenting, the thin line between self-care and selfish. Let's talk about relationships. So you don't want to go so far that you begin to neglect the other in your journey to find you. You do want to try to find some real balance in that and not shut out the other person. Unless you feel like you're having to shut them out in order to find you. That's something else separate going on between you and your counselors and therapists and your mental health team, right? But be careful about that. Don't, in some of those self-care moments, make time for that person as well. Like, I get that, yeah, I'm going to go on a hike or I'm going to go on a walk, but hey, maybe this time, let's go on the hike together. And just talk about things that are calm without the stress and the drama. Talking out relationship things while you're walking and working out is key to a better relationship. And I've said those things in previous podcasts, right? So I hope this makes sense. And I didn't want to go on too long. I think my introduction antics made me go on longer than my time frame because I'm 2 minutes over already. But I wanted to, as always, just insert some food for thought. I want you to take a real good look at your self-care and make sure that you're balancing that thin line between self-care and selfish. That you know, there's another podcast coming up where I'm going to talk about the needs for mothers to be real careful with sacrifice. And understanding, you have to be real careful about selfish and sacrifice. And there's some other things that I'm going to go into. So class will be in when that happens. And I will bring you guys some more. I'm going to write a note to myself to bring you guys some more on that. But I don't want to take you there today because I just want this class to be in only. About the thin line between self-care and selfish. So just on your self-care journeys, don't fall into neglect in key areas with the people around you, whether it's work, whether it's your social community events, whether it's your home, whether it's with your children, with your significant other, with your lover, family. Find some balance, which is why I don't shut everyone off all year long. 2 times a year is about the most that I normally can handle, but because of the pandemic and I didn't see people last year at all, this year is like, I have already commitments that's going to make me probably have like 5 social outings. That's a little bit more than what I'm comfortable with in these years. But of course, the pandemic did cut off a lot. So in 2020 and 2021 may end up going back into this lockdown and all these other things that the CDC and other people may end up saying. And if that's the case, just a whole bunch of plans may get canceled again. And that's okay because we've learned how to be resilient and bounce back and go with the flow, because the pandemic, we never know what's going to happen. And we're going to keep our balance and our peace by just following with whatever could go down without being negative and rejecting everything that comes out, because you're causing inner stress and fighting powers that you have no power over. And so you may want to just kind of go with the flow just a little bit. That change could happen, and expect the unexpected. And know that that great things can happen when you do so. So I think that's it. Go back to that intro if you're trying to figure out how to find me on social media. Thank you for those who tuned in to the live just now. I appreciate you. I appreciate you very much for tuning in to the live. And that's pretty much all I have on that. It's just a food for thought topic. You're supposed to write the notes. When you write the notes, then you have any additional questions, then you can feel free to DM me. You can also book a life coaching session by going to deeshields.com. DeeShields.com. All right, so that's how you book your sessions. You can also have a conversation on social media. Find me the same. I am Dee Shields. All right, you guys, that's all I have for today. Went over my time. I'm so glad to be back. I missed you guys. Love you guys. Later.